Hey everybody, I'm here starting my video on my adoption story part 3. So I already kind of talked about my father and not, him thinking about him not claiming me and everything like that. So and how that kind of made me feel after I found out about him actually taking me in when he found me again and when I found everybody. And that got me growing up, and I had resentment towards him for a little bit, just really because I just didn't understand um, why he just did the things that he did. It just didn't make sense to me. And when I met him and I got to know all my other siblings and I found out about everybody else, and I kind of had heard that he took care of Kiwan and everybody. I mean, at first I didn't have resentment. I kind of didn't care. Now I kind of hurts, but then at the same time it doesn't matter. I love Kiwan, I love my brother, I love everybody. So it just, to me, it just, that doesn't happen here. That doesn't matter right here. um Growing up, I had always heard about, you know he- the heritage of the family that I had come from, but nobody really knew anything. There were only a couple occurrences that my adoptive family had with my biological family. And really, those occurrences that they were able to meet and see each other, those times. And when I mean occurrences, I actually meant to say like the acquaintances that they had. Occurrences, I don't know why I said that. That didn't make any sense at all. But the acquaintances that they had, did that make any sense at all? Either of those words? I don't know. They just don't sound right. Anyways, um, my Aunt Jerry put me up for adoption. So she was involved with the family, my adopted family. Of course, my biological mother was definitely involved. My biological sister, half sister Ann, and my brother Gary, and my biological father a little bit, but he just, I didn't hear a lot about him when I was younger. I heard more about my mother and my sister, and then reading in my files, my Aunt Jerry, um, and I heard about my biological mother's my biological mother's parents, but I didn't know too much about them. I just knew their names, and that was when I was looking through my files. I did not have any idea at that time of my mother's parents, and I did not have any idea about anything further than that. I just knew a couple of things. What I had heard was only on my mom's side. So I had heard that she was Native American, so that I was Jamaican and Native American, and I guess the Jamaican came from, they assumed my father was Jamaican and that my mom was just Native, mixed with some African, and then African and Native, which in a way was true. Now the Jamaican, I'm really not sure of anymore, because I know my brother Gary is Jamaican and I know that I have a Jamaican relative, but I have not got any spots in Jamaica. I haven't gotten anything on Ancestry, nothing about that. Doesn't mean it's not true, but I don't. I do have Jamaican relatives, but I don't know if that runs through me exactly. So I do know that we are Native, you know, and we are European, and we are African. My mother's father's side, from when I was doing research, is Latin American. And then my mother's side, they're Creole, but they're mixed with a lot. But I've also heard that there may be some Native on that side, but I'm not sure. I don't think there is. Maybe a very, very small percentage, but I know majority of my Native blood comes from my mother's father's side, at least from what I think. So we're Latin and we're Creole, and our Latin American roots go to Brazil, and My grandfather was a Brazil. That's where the Brazil name comes from, is Brazil. My grandfather's father was a Brazil. My mother is a Brazil. I'm a Brazil. Her brother is a Brazil. My grandfather's father's brother, of course, was a Brazil, and his father, and on down. But it does branch out. Like there is some Dennis blood in there on my father's side somewhere, or that may also be on the Phillips side though. It may not be on my mother's father's side. I'd have to pull my tree up. But there's a lot in my bloodline. Just know that, and um, there is everything makes better sense now because on my mother's father's side, my grandfather, it's Spanish Portuguese, so it's Spanish and Portuguese, and then we are native, and then the African blood. On my mother's side, it is French, Irish, African blood, and um, maybe some native. I just know that, and I've done videos on this. My great grandfather Jeff Phillips was he was a mulatto, and at that time, mulatto was what they used for mixed race. I'm just gonna use what they used back then. I know the word mulatto is not a good term, it's not a good word, but that's what is in his records, even though he was a mixed race. You know why they called him mulatto. Really, mulatto wasn't used for mixed race. Mulatto was used as a term back then for anybody mixed with European ancestry. Anyways, he was mulatto because he was Irish and African. But Jeff Phillips was my mother's father. That's what made her Irish. Her mother, Alice Phillips, who was a Hall before she was a Phillips, was, I really believe she was either just French or something. French, Irish, and maybe, well, no, I think Alice was just French with just maybe a little bit of African ancestry, and I heard she also had African in her, or that she was a black woman, but she didn't look it. I'm not gonna get into that part. Maybe that could be another video. There's just a lot going on my mom's side, and there could be a lot goes into things. Okay, so I know about the heritage now. I know what is in here and there, what may come in there, and I did have Swedish blood pop up on 23andMe, but I'm not sure where that would, I really feel like that would come from my father's side. Even as small as it is, I feel like that would come from my father's side. They're majority African. You guys know that on my father's side, it's Madagascar blood. So that's something we know runs in the family, at least from what I learned from cousins, you know, forth and all that. And they're mixed, you know, that's Vietnamese or Filipino ancestry, which I still group with Native American, but I do also group it with the Madagascar blood because that's what's there. And other than that, and maybe some Norwegian blood, there's really no other blood in the system of the Powell/Washington side. Some of my cousins got on my father's side that I know, like my cousin Eddie, he had Spanish and Portuguese in him, but and it was small, but that could come out if that. It doesn't mean that that comes from Powell/Washington side. That could come from another side of his family who maybe Spanish or Portuguese. So, um, it just, you know, DNA gets spread differently, you know. But that's what I'd heard about the heritage part. And some things were true, some things weren't true about what my adopted family had told me about my biological family's heritage. But majority, like with the native, was true. Um, I never heard of any European in my family, but I knew that there was some there. And I'm not upset about it. I'm proud of all of what's in my bloodline. And I really don't think that my family's European blood comes from slavery because my Alice Alice was pretty much a European immigrant. She was pretty much a European woman. I don't want to say immigrant because probably by the time they were in the U.S., everything had pretty much been done. But she was pretty much a European woman. And you guys have seen pictures. So I really don't like Jeff Phillips had my great grandfather had married, literally married a European woman who may have had some other mixed ancestry in her, which made my grandmother Dorothy mixed race and made my mother have mixed race stuff, mixture in her, along with her father, who was Latin American, and he had mixture in him, which put more mixture in my mother, which puts mixture in me. Then my father's side, who's pretty much predominantly just African, but they have very, very, very little mixture in them. So it's very cool how that works. And so yeah, it's very cool how that works. Also, I, I really don't know where to go from here with my adoption story. Um, but I'm gonna make a part 4, and that'll be close to the end. If I need to make a part 5, I will. But I kind of don't know where to really branch out from here, but I'll think about it so that I can connect more dots with certain things on how I'm gonna move on to the next topic of my adoption story. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I really miss making videos with you guys. I thought it was about time to kind of try my best to get back in it. So, all right.